This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us for the 13th COVID-19 conference call. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Wayne Mitchell, and I'm the president and CEO of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce. I want to remind all of you that we are recording this call, and members of the media have been invited to participate as well. I'd respectfully ask that all of you put your phones and your computers on mute until we're ready for questions, and that'll be helpful. I also want to remind you that the Chamber has a wealth of information on the Chamber website located at www.nacogdoches.org. Please visit the resource page, which is updated on a daily basis. The major news this past week is the recommendation from city and county officials here in Nacogdoches to wear masks. In addition, some of the requirements to open have been rolled back. I would advise anyone with questions to visit the Chamber website for information about these requirements. They're located in the COVID-19 resource page. In addition, last Thursday, Governor Abbott implemented a resolution that masks need to be worn at all public places. That resolution is also on the Chamber's website as well. We'll begin this morning with our first presenter. This is one of those issues that we learn from each other, and some of us have sadly more experience with this virus, this pandemic, than some of us do, other than the preventative measures that we're all involved with. It's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker today, Tara Watson-Watkins, the president and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. I've had the privilege of working with Tara for several years on issues that we share in common in this region, and I can tell you without hesitation, she's the best chamber CEO, in my opinion, in this part of Texas. I guess I'll just have to settle for being the best looking CEO. All kidding aside, for those of you that are from the media, that's part of my fake news for the day, okay? Don't report that, please. I will let you know that Tara runs a wonderful chamber down in Lufkin and Angelina. She loves her investors like we love ours down here, our members down here. Tara and I have lots in common. She was once Miss Texas, and I was once Mr. Maine. So I don't know if you knew. That's a lie again, and there goes my credibility completely. But some of the information I'm sharing with you is correct. Truly, she's an outstanding chamber CEO. All kidding aside, we asked Tara to speak to us today about her personal experience with COVID-19 and how it's impacted her both personally and professionally. We are pleased that Tara is back working in her office as well. Would you please welcome with me the President and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce, Tara Watson-Watkins. Good morning, Tara.
Hey, Wayne, thank you so much. And hello to all my friends in Nacogdoches. I'm honored to be here with you. Unfortunately, I'm going to be talking to you about what happens when you do test positive. For those of you that I don't know, my husband and I have a little girl who is 6 years old, and she is a severe asthmatic. So the moment that all of this started in March, really, we were some of the most proactive. We did not go anywhere. If we went anywhere, we wore a mask. I even wore gloves to go places. We immediately started using Instacart and the Rosie apps to have groceries delivered. We did everything by the book. My mom is also an RN, and she works for the Angelina Counties and Cities Health District. She's over all of the call center for COVID-19. So I knew the information, I knew the facts, I knew what to do to protect ourselves, and I still got it. And so, today I just wanted to visit with you about kind of my journey here. Like I said, we started really trying to not go anywhere and limit who we were around. Poor Annalie she's had one friend to our house since March to be able to play with, and it's another family who has also kind of been in isolation, and we decided we would let our kids play together and we would keep them away from really the rest of the world. However, when things started getting a little bit better, back earlier in June, my mom and I decided that we would try to continue to go on a trip to Florida. They had just reopened. And during that trip is when my symptoms started. I really think that I picked this up probably from our IT person here at our office. We were having our servers moved over. We closed the office for him to be able to come in and to shift servers to a new server. However, he was also on my computer keypad. I never once thought about cleaning my computer keypad. So I really think, looking back at the dates and when the symptoms started, it was about 8 to 10 days between the time that he was in our office to when I first lost and I lost my taste and smell. Those were my symptoms. I was absolutely exhausted. I am also a carrier for mono. I've had mono 3 times in my adult life, as well as having it as a kid. So I'm always very aware when I get exhausted that it's time to have some blood work done. And I told my mom, I think I've got mono again. I'm just exhausted. But I really knew that something was happening when we both had gumbo, and she said, "That's the best gumbo I've eaten." And I said, "It tastes like cardboard." And so that was my first kind of notion that something was really wrong. We came back home from Florida. I immediately went into isolation and was tested. I was in isolation for 4.5 days. They ran 3 different tests on me because they were trying to get me a quick answer. I even paid on top of getting a free test. I paid on top of that to get tests run very quickly because we had the Chamber Golf Tournament coming up and I needed to be there if at all possible. 2 of the 3 tests came back negative. I was told we've never seen 2 blood tests come back negative and a nasal swab come back positive. You're clear, you're fine. I had multiple doctors, multiple healthcare providers telling me I was good. I went to the golf tournament. I tried to social distance. I did hug some of my good friends. I elbow bumped some other people. And for the majority of people, I did stay kind of socially distanced. However, I did not wear a mask that day because I was told that I was in the clear and that I was negative. And so I was very sure that I was not exposing anyone. I would never expose anyone, let alone my family, to this. And the next morning at 7:15 a.m., my phone rang, and it was one of the healthcare providers calling to say, "You're never going to believe this, but your 3rd test just came back positive." So immediately I went into crisis mode. Oh my God, what have I done? I've exposed people. I've exposed investors yesterday at the golf tournament. And luckily, we have a great crisis plan that we've had for years, and we are tweaking it to now include COVID. We have everything from shelter in place to critical records and equipment to meeting personnel needs. But as of now, we've also included what to do when COVID strikes. I will tell you that we immediately, of course, my entire family, including my mom, who's in a different house, but because we had all been together, we all went into quarantine for 12 days. Because I was asymptomatic, I did not have to have, nor they had to have the full 2 weeks, but we went into quarantine for 12 days. And luckily, none of them got sick. I'm very blessed to be able to say that I was just tired and lost my smell and taste, which is a really weird feeling to not be able to smell or taste anything. You really start paying attention to the texture of foods. I really thought I would lose weight, but that didn't happen. But the great thing is no one got sick. Immediately, though, we had to figure out what to do. And so we started calling all of our sponsors that had been there, that I had been in contact with. I immediately sat down and made a list of every single person that I was in close proximity to the day before. And I wrote out the facts, because you know how the rumor mill goes. You hear that text messaging starts, Tara's tested positive for COVID. Before you know it, I had given the entire community COVID. You have to sit down and pay attention to the facts. And so I made a list of every single person I have been in contact with and immediately either called or sent them a message and just said, excuse the mass text, but I'm trying to get this information out as quickly as possible. I was in direct contact with you yesterday, and here are my facts. Had to put my my entire staff into quarantine. They all had to be tested. I have one staff member whose husband he works at the prison, so he had already tested. He had been tested 4 times, had not been tested positive at all. However, his parents were both tested positive. They both work at the prison, so we already knew that Megan had probably been exposed to it and had still not shown any signs. And I think that's really the facts that we have to figure out now, is that we're all going to be exposed. We're all probably going to get this at some point. We just need to pray that it's a very mild case, and that it just makes you tired and you get some extra naps in there. I know that there are people that are suffering with this. I know there are people on ventilators, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't thank God for the fact that he just allowed me to have a mild case, and that my family, that my daughter with asthma did not get this. You know, as a mom, I was so guilty because all I have done is try to protect her, and now I've brought it into our home. But what I would tell you for your business is that the first thing I would recommend that you do if you don't have a crisis plan in place is that you need to have that. I'm happy to share our crisis plan with any of you if you'd like to. If you don't have something and you want somewhere at least to start from, I'm happy to give you that, and then you can tweak it to your own business. Just let Wayne or Barbara know, and they can get your information to me, and I will be glad to send you that. Also, something that we learned during all of this, because some of us had been working remotely depending on what's happening, is that your IT people need to be able to have you where you can remotely get into your main servers. That way everyone could work at all times. Even if we were working at home, we could remote into the servers, and it was just like sitting here in our office. We also, as a team, made sure that we met twice a week on Zoom conference calls, because we wanted to make sure that we were staying connected as a team and that we were all on the same path and that we were all giving the same information. So just make sure that you're talking to your teammates if something like this were to happen. And then, you know, you've got to figure out with phones, because if you're working remotely, you've got to be able to transfer your phone so that you can still answer the phone and still answer investors' phone calls and give them the information that we need. We also, it was very important to us, just like y'all in Nacogdoches, it was very important to us to make sure we were getting all of the information out regarding COVID, not just with me being sick, but information that's happening from our governor, from our mayor, from county judges to all of the public, not just our investors. And I know that y'all have been doing that as well. Something else to look at when this does strike, or just in general, our entire team is a staff of women, and we all have children between the age of 10 months to 10 years. And so all of our lives have really been flipped upside down since the kids left for spring break, and then they didn't end up going back to school. So it was trying to figure out how that we could continue to run the chamber as professionally as we were running it before, with all of the information out, but to be able to have flexibility with our staff. It's very important to me that family comes first, but that we remain credible and that we get the information out to our investors and to our community. And so we've really had to be flexible with that. We've had to have the ability to work from home parts of the day. We've had to be able to bring our kids and put them in the conference room and shut the door and hope that there's not a loud noise and a loud explosion of tables going somewhere. We've just had to be flexible. And so I just encourage you to look at your staff and to figure out, don't just look at what you're having to deal with if you're the president or you're the boss or whatever. Don't just look at all the things that you're having to do to figure out how to continue to run your company. Look at the people that work for you. What are they having to do to not only keep their job going and to keep the things doing that they're doing, but what are they having to do differently with their families? What are they having to do differently with their kids? And be flexible and be patient and give them some flexibility to be able to maybe not work a full 8 hours, to be able to do the things they need to do to get their kids, because there's no camps for us to put our children into this summer. And so I just encourage you to make sure that you get a crisis plan in place, that you follow that. If you do test positive, that immediately you sit down and you make a list of everyone that you came into contact with. You divide up that list so that you can communicate with those people. But really, it's about, repurposing our business and communicating not only with our employees, but our investors. And I think that's something that that y'all have done well. I know that we follow y'all and y'all follow us, and we just continue to work together. But I just encourage you to step back and to look at what your employees are also having to go through, and to be able to give them a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of grace, because right now it's all about grace. I think I had 15 minutes, so I'm on the dot.
Thank you, Tara, very much. First of all, Tara, now that you're past the testing point, do you have any lingering effects left over personally?
I get a little tired, which is not me. I'm a 90 miles an hour person. But other than that, really nothing. I was very happy that my taste and smell came back. It's not fun to eat food and not be able to taste it. And I like to eat food. So I'm glad that came back. Other than that, everything else is pretty much gone. It took about 2 weeks for it to completely run the system through, and to get rid of all symptoms.
And I want you to know that we certainly will keep you and your family in our prayers as you continue to recover from this nasty virus. Any other questions of Tara? She's the first person we've had on this call that's actually had personal experience and a willingness to share with us what it's like. Any questions you folks would like to ask Tara?
Thanks for having me.
Well, Tara, thank you for being a part of this call and for your candor about this this journey that you identified that you've gone through. It's certainly helpful for all of us to get this type of insight into this pandemic that we're all learning about. Seems like more and more on a daily basis, and we wish you well as you continue to recover. With that, we'll move into the second part of the agenda. We would welcome, and Tara, I hope you'll stay with us if you're able to.
Yes.
Would you welcome, please, Senator Robert Nichols to give us kind of an update from a COVID update on a state perspective? Good morning, Senator Nichols.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that update, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. You stated a little bit earlier what some of the governor's new policy updates were: mandatory face masks in public places, with several exceptions. He also gave county judges the ability to manage and regulate outside gatherings.
Yeah. I wanted to hear Tara Watson from the Lufkin Chamber because she's had COVID, and she just got through right before you called. So that's really who I wanted to hear. The others are just...
Nancy, your phone is not on mute. Go ahead, Senator.
That's okay. Anyway, so we know what the governor has done recently as far as actions taken, and I want to make sure everybody understood why some of these actions were being taken. We all heard about this recent spike in COVID cases, but it's not the number of cases that the governor's office and Department of State, the health services are looking at so much. It's the positivity rate. In other words, the number of people that test positive as a percentage of the test, and the hospitalizations. And in a 3-week period from June 15, we had 2,300 in hospitals, to 3 weeks later, we went from 2,300 to 8,700. So we almost quadrupled the number of people in hospitals in 3 weeks, and we doubled the number of people that were testing positive. Now, our area of the state doesn't have that many people in hospitals, although it's unfortunate to have any. But the region, the state is showing from the Nacogdoches area to the Sulphur Springs area has a total of 121 in hospitals, and from Nacogdoches all the way down to Cleveland, Texas, and Liberty County has about 46. So it's not our area of the state that's testing out so high, but we would be next if we don't take some type of action. As far as other things, I've got 101 school districts. So what the public schools are going to be doing in August is a big question with a lot of parents and school board members. We may have some school board members on there. But I think it's the intention, the governor's office, for the schools to actually open. But the decision of how they're going to do it and what they're going to do is going to be left to the school boards. I think it's very important that we leave that decision making at the local school level. And in talking to those superintendents, and I've got meetings with some tomorrow, I'll be visiting all 101 beginning later in August and go through all the different counties. But there's going to be a lot of decisions they're going to have to make, whether or not they're going to require full 5-day school, whether they're going to have a flexible schedule where they're going to be meeting 2 or 3 days. I'm sure a lot of them are surveying their parents to find out even if the parents are going to send them to school, and are they going to be required to work out different types of connectivity, working out of their homes and stuff. So there's a lot to be decision to be made on there, and most of it's going to be made at the local level with state guidance on best practices, because every parent has a different opinion of what they want their children to go through on that. So that'll be something we'll be updating here in the next couple of weeks. Other things related to the state, we normally are having what we call interim charges at this time of the year. Those are the issues the speaker and the lieutenant governor give the different committees to come to a resolve when we're not under the pressure of a time crunch like during session. But because of the COVID, we really have not been able to meet in many of those, and it's very difficult in these video or conference calls to be fair to witnesses that have important experiences to share with us. But the lieutenant governor did tell us, when I say us, I'm talking about the 31 senators, we get together about every 2 weeks on the phone. He said they were trying to coordinate with the speaker and the governor. So neither body wants to get ahead of the other, but they were looking at the very earliest, probably meetings in Austin, middle of the August, probably later, maybe later in August. Of course, that was right before the spike hit. So I'm sure that mid-August is probably out. It's probably going to be the end of August, early September. We would not be in normal committee rooms at the Capitol. We would be in much larger chambers like the Senate chamber or the House chamber and several other large auditorium-style rooms so that people could spread out. We had a whole series of redistricting, which is going to be hearings scheduled all through the fall. Both the House and the Senate did. Redistricting is the next really big issue we're going to be facing other than the budget. But now we've been confirmed that we will not get the federal census numbers till June. And so the session will be over then. And hearings that we have a year earlier would not be considered adequate hearings for public hearings. So those hearings, redistricting hearings for the fall, pretty much all been canceled. And we will be doing the redistricting hearings in the spring. And for those of you who may not really understand the importance of redistricting, every 10 years we have to rebalance the House members so that they all represent the same number of people. Same thing in the Senate. In the House, and particularly in East Texas, we don't have the growth that they have in the urban areas. So each one of our House members in East Texas will have to represent a larger number of people, larger population. And so they're going to have to pick up geographic space to do it. And if you look at the maps, like I've been looking at the maps, I'm on the redistricting committee for the Senate. The House will do their own. It's going to have some major impacts on our House members and the number of people that we have representing us in the House at the Capitol. So it's going to be a big deal, but it won't dominate this next coming session. It will probably be in special hearings, special sessions next summer. That's pretty much all the major stuff I've got to cover. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask of me?
Any questions of Senator Nichols? Senator, thank you for that update, sir. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Really quickly, I am curious, is there any word on I'm an alternate delegate, but I'm also going to be out of town, but I could Zoom in. Is there any word on the Texas Republican Convention?
They took a formal vote. The state Republican Executive Committee members did, and they voted 40-20 to go ahead and do an in-person convention. Although so that kind of set it that it's for real in person. Most people, or a lot of people, think that's very unwise to have 5,000 or 6,000 people inside one building at one time from all over the state. You're talking about an opportunity to spread virus each end of the state to the other. But that's the decision they made. Now, there are several other things coming down the pike that still might torpedo it. One is there are some regulations on the books from the health department that they could activate if they wanted to. And the county judge nor the mayor of Houston has the authority to cancel it. I don't think the governor really wants to. So kind of in limbo, but the party says they are still working on opportunities for virtual participation. And so I think we'll learn a lot more about the next 24, 48 hours. But they are still working on a virtual alternative. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator. I will be in a cab 30 minutes from the nearest other human being in New Mexico with my family, but I will have internet service, so I would like to Zoom in if I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Senator Nichols. Moving on, let's hear from Representative Travis Clardy. Good morning, Representative Clardy. Representative Clardy, good morning.
Don't be shy.
Good morning, Wayne, and members of the chamber. Thank y'all for having me back on. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. We can hear you.
I got my mute on.
We hear you.
No, I'm trying to talk. Can you see me? Let me just. How about now? Good. All right. Well, so first, okay. I showed it was unmuted. Very good. First off, I want to thank Senator Nichols for his comments. He really covered a lot of. And quickly, so that. Hey, how about you?
Try it again, Travis. Go ahead, sir.
I'm not having much luck. Wayne, can
Try it.
All right. Okay, so I'm seeing you. All right, so I want to thank Tara for being on the show, and I want to kind of start where she ended, and that is, and you've heard me say this before, she said, let's be graceful to one another. Let's show some grace. I think that has worked well. I know there's a lot of tension, a lot of frustration across this country, but the good news is we haven't seen it here. And I really do think a lot of it has to do with we have been impacted by the virus and other things. We've had protests, et cetera, but it's been handled very, very well. Senator Nichols pointed to the figures here locally. In our I think it's a TSA, the hospital regions, our numbers are up like everywhere else's because of testing and more infections, which I think is a good thing, not a bad thing, that we're beginning to see this thing spread asymptomatically. And hopefully it means we're building a herd immunity and will for the next several months before we get to the next flu season. Our hospitalizations have edged up here, but not like they have in Houston.
Representative Clardy, it appears we've lost you, sir.
In Corpus, in the Valley, in the city areas. Again, so we are not in the same mode that the other places are. And I think it's because, anecdotally, people are doing a good job of wearing of washing their hands, wearing their masks, keep distance, they're 6 stay home. So, all right, well, I'm going to hang up. Let me call back.
Okay, sir. Why don't we move on? We're pleased to have with us the president of Stephen F. Austin State University, Dr. Scott Gordon. Good morning, Dr. Gordon.
Good morning. Hope everybody is doing well. Last week was a very busy week where we published our Open SFA guide to fall 2020. That document is on our website, and it will consistently be updated as we progress towards the fall semester. Just a couple of highlights from that. First, effective today, face coverings are going to be required on campus, must be worn by all individuals on campus, and that includes visitors to campus. All indoor spaces that are accessed by the public, our classrooms, labs, hallways, lobbies, restrooms, you name it, and including outdoor spaces when physical distancing is not available or not readily maintained. So basically a pretty comprehensive face covering requirement for campus. A lot of question about are we going to be starting classes on the scheduled date, August 24th? And right now, the answer is yes. We are going to have, as best we can, a regular fall semester. I'll explain that in a moment. We will be going to remote only instruction after Thanksgiving. When I say that we're going to try our best to have a relatively normal fall, we're going to do that with a variety of class structures. We're going to have some face-to-face instruction, making sure that we have proper physical distancing. We're going to have online courses where students won't have on-campus attendance required. We're going to have live stream as well, in which case some students will be able to get that via Zoom, and they still may be having students in the classroom, so it's a very flexible approach. And so students right now can go online to look and see how each of their specific classes are going to be offered. And they can do that on our SFA website. Our residence halls are going to be open, and same with dining all through the entire semester. And there will be some changes in how the food is served. There will be no self-service. And then the big question is, could these plans change? And the answer is absolutely they could change. And so we're monitoring the situation on a regular basis. And, I think we've all learned over the past several months that every plan that develops has to be adaptable to the situation as it presents itself. And, just a few weeks ago, things were looking pretty good. Today, they're surging. And so we'll be watching the situation very closely, and as summer progresses, and if there's any significant changes, I'll talk about those here. We'll post it on our website, and other than that, we're going to work towards the fall and hope everybody wears their masks. And if we wear our masks and we can, as a region, stay out of this resurgence, then hopefully we'll be able to begin working towards some level of normal. So that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any questions of Dr. Gordon? Well, thank you very much, Scott. We really appreciate those updates. Representative Clardy, were you able to reconnect, sir? Apparently not. We'll move on. I'm pleased to welcome.
Hang on. Hey, Wayne, how about it?
Okay, sir, we got you.
All right, good. Sorry about the problem. I had a bad connection. So I won't repeat anything I said because it wasn't worth repeating. I do want to thank everybody for being here. Tara, I was talking about Tara's comments about being graceful. Let's continue to do that. And on that very topic, if there's one thing I wanted to say today, it was thank you to all of you who reached out to Judy and myself. We lost Judy's father Sunday. We had his funeral Sunday last, and it was a very, very touching service, and a great man and a tremendous father-in-law. It was a big loss to our family, but he's in a much, much better place. So I want to thank all of you for your thoughts and prayers and cards and flowers. It was very touching and is most appreciated. So, but it's one of those things. One of the things we struggle with, and I will tell you anecdotally, I think one of the reasons that contributed to his death, he was 84, lived a very full life, was our inability to have access to him in the assisted living center and in the hospitals during his treatment. And this is something I've heard over and over and over again. If there's a single complaint I've received as a representative, it has been on this issue. And it's a difficult situation for our nursing homes and long-term care centers to be in. And they have to, the top priority has to be to protect their residents from contracting a virus, which hits them disproportionately hard. But by the same token, we know that family contact is one of the most important things for people to maintain good physical health and mental health, and really, help with the will to live and have quality of life. So that's an issue that we're looking to take up, and we're working internally on a legislative level with the agencies to try to come up with new plans. But it's a difficult subject. But I just want everybody to know I understand the concern very deeply, and we are taking it seriously. The one thing I would say, and I appreciate Senator Nichols' update on redistricting. So it sounds like we would have a special session probably on redistricting following the end of the 87th legislative session, sometimes next summer, to take up the data that we're going to receive, belatedly because of the COSIS numbers or the COVID problem. But in the meantime, I am seriously considering, and in fact, am going to be making a request to the governor's office that we do have a special session now. I do think there's too many issues that are going on. They're piling up on each other. I think the governor is doing his best trying to address these from the executive branch's standpoint. But I really do think the input of the legislature is needed. That's how Texas is set up. We have a historically weak governor. I mean that by the power of the position. And I think it's important that we maintain that framework, and that the legislature have an opportunity to go and meet and take up issues of budget, of public education. How do we fund it under the drop in sales revenue, et cetera? How we deal with healthcare gaps, and how we deal with other issues. And I do think it's important we take up the issue as a state, and let's begin the conversation on effective use of power and of in our police agencies and law enforcement. I think we need to start addressing these now, running into the next session. So it's important to happen sooner than later, because once we get past Labor Day, politics shouldn't step into these issues, but that's in the perfect world none of us live in. In the real world, after Labor Day, politics is going to interfere with everything, including stuff in all of our mailboxes with a bunch of junk mail. So that's just the nature. So if we're going to get anything done, I think it needs to happen sooner than later. And so I'm going to be asking the governor to call a special session on these real substantive issues, and let's try to take this up. But I will say I think Texas is in a good place. There's been a lot of negative things said about the infection rate in Texas, and personally, I view that as a good thing. It means we're testing more, we're getting better data, but it also means the fatality percentage is dropping down lower and lower because the number of cases coming up. The one number that has not changed dramatically has been the fatality rate, and in fact, it's just going up and down, but it's not following the curve of infections or the curve of hospitalizations. Senator Nichols is exactly right. Those two rates quadrupled. They doubled in 2 weeks and doubled again in another 2 weeks on both hospitalizations and on infections. But what's not quadrupled, and we'll see, time will tell, but I don't think we're going to see the fatality rate change significantly. And I think because the virus hit those most susceptible early on when there was less protection and there was not the ability to treat as well. Now we're better staffed, better equipped, better treatment protocols, and it's reaching a population that has some stronger ability to resist the virus. Now that's a very much a generalization. So let's see what the numbers show us in a couple of weeks. That's always the difficult thing. You know, you can study it and say, I think this is what's going to happen, but the results lag 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from what the data tells you at a point in time. So, but right now, I'll tell you, you look at the fatalities, they have not gone up measurably. There are still fatalities, there will continue to be fatalities, and that's not good. That's a tragic thing. But again, just by comparison, if you look at the flu and pneumonia deaths in Texas, since the end of September to now, 8,500 deaths, non-COVID, flu and pneumonia. And I think right now, and I looked at the portal late last night, I think we're around 2,700. So 8,500 to 2,700 flu to COVID. And again, I'm not making a relative comparison because we've jumped on the COVID issue harder because we don't have a vaccine, whereas we do with the flu. But the point is, we live in a dangerous world, and there's a whole bunch of things that can kill us. I'll close with this. Just read an interesting story about, we know that the miles traveled have dropped significantly, which affects how much gas has been burned, affects how much revenue comes to the state. So that's one important factor. But you would think with the dropping of mileage traveled in Texas, you would see a commensurate drop in accidents and fatalities. Well, we've seen a significant drop in accidents across the state of Texas, but the fatalities have barely decreased at all. And this is kind of under the law of unintended consequences. The reason that's happened is people driving to work in Houston now don't sit in a parking lot traveling 5 miles an hour bumper to bumper. The roads are open and people are driving 80 or 90 miles an hour because they can finally drive. And that's so now when there's an accident, it's a high-speed accident leading to more fatalities. Now, I wouldn't have guessed that was going to happen, but when you look at the data, you go, well, that kind of makes sense. So I would say that the moral of that story for those of us who, one, never drive that fast, Gary Lee Ashcraft, but for those of us who never drive fast like that, but secondly, for those of us when it comes down to the governor's order to wear masks, just because you can live a little more dangerously doesn't mean you should. And so I would say the analogy for the COVID crisis is just because we think it's not that bad here, that we don't have as many hospitalized, does not mean you need to quit washing your hands, and you don't need to wear a mask in public places, and you don't need to worry about being sick and still going to work. And all those same things still apply. And so I would encourage everyone, do it because it's the right thing to do. Don't have the reaction that I will confess I have had. I may be your elected state representative, but I'm also a Texan who does not like the government telling me what to do. Separate yourself from that emotion, please. Do it because you choose to do it because it's the right thing to do. Don't say I'm not going to do it because nobody's going to tell me what to do. And that's a matter of choice that we all have. So I would encourage everybody to act reasonably and rationally, protect the loved ones around you. Let's keep doing the smart thing, and let's lead out our numbers look better than anybody's right now, and I think we're doing a great job. Again, kudos to Gary Stokes and Jeff Patterson and their teams at our hospitals. I think we're doing a fantastic job. Let's keep up the good work. And by the way, we are going to go back live this Friday. I had to skip because my father-in-law's illness and passing, but we'll go back live this Friday, 3 o'clock for our first show in a couple of weeks. And at that time, I'll be happy to answer questions and do that. And likewise right here, I'm through. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Representative Clegg. We appreciate that update. Let's hear now from Nancy Windham, the president of the Texas Forest Country Partnership. Good morning, Nancy.
Okay, good morning. Travis, thanks so much, and we appreciate you and Senator Nichols for representing this area, and I want to say thanks to the other representatives that stand up for our forest country region. I think the fact that getting involved now on what's going on with the next session, I know I'm just one of many, but I just wanted to verbally say thank you, and we support that. The Texas Forest Country Partnership cannot legally lobby, but we can stand up for economic development and for business, and we can provide data and economic impact analysis that will show you what is important to us. And we want to be that voice to hold you guys up and ladies throughout the legislature to support what we hold near and dear, and that is our businesses and our citizens in this particular region. So thank you. I don't know how many of you on this call remember the time when we were told to wear seatbelts. I remember when riding open in the back of a pickup truck when you were hauling hay or going down the road, that was okay. But I remember the heartaches or the negativity when government or somebody tells me you've got to wear a seatbelt, it's illegal. And we survived that, and there were lives that were saved. So I agree, let's all wear a mask, let's all do the right thing. Tara, thank you for sharing your story on that. Each of us, the circle is getting smaller and smaller, and each day we're finding out that we're knowing someone either personally or ourselves that are being affected, and it's going to tighten up. So we need to just rally up to the call and make sure we're doing everything possible to do that. I'll keep my report real quick. I think I reported on several things last call about the IC2 out of University of Texas. Those interns are continuing with that survey of those cities throughout the region. We have provided some more contact information for them, so we're looking forward to that report. But I polled several of our county judges yesterday. I didn't get around to all of them, but the ones that I did speak to personally, I was very encouraged to hear that 2 of them have said that there's either developers that have come in the area looking for land for housing to build new subdivisions. And they're not for sure if it's the people in the metropolitan areas that are retiring or it's business people that are wanting to get out of the congestion. That was encouraging from 2 of the counties that right off the bat said, you know what, surprisingly, we've had people coming in looking for places to build homes. So I also know that's a box that's real critical when we get a project lead to come into the area. It is about housing, and it's also about the workforce. And I see that Mark and Karen are on this call. We're going to be participating or just attending some of their county calls. He may want to say a few words about that. They've hired some new people, which we're excited about, that will help oversee some of the workforce needs in all of our counties. And then as far as businesses go across the region, some of the smaller businesses have found a way to stay afloat. They're finding out that their overhead is a lot less if they continue to do the carry out and the order by phone that way. That's not always the best thing for all businesses, but for those businesses that you would think, oh, they'll never make it through this, well, we're resilient And I'm finding out more and more businesses like, I refuse to give up on this. So they're finding ways to be successful. Also hear of a lot of businesses reaching out to their chambers of commerce. Nacogdoches and Lufkin are very blessed that you have strong and active chambers. We're working right now with Newton County. They don't have a chamber of commerce, but they have a local group of businesses that says we need to have something to come together and help each other. I want to know what we have in town. They've created Facebook pages. So we're going to be working with them on a business retention and expansion program. And that's what we should be doing, is getting out there with the folks. Of course, it's all virtually. Some of them, they want to do face to face, but right now we're being extra careful with what and how we do that. So that's it, like from a regional basis, promoting, seeing what we can do to help with workforce and looking at the agencies that have that expertise. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to be on this call. I've gained a lot from just listening to all the reports, and hopefully we can share that to the other counties as well. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great week.
Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that report. From the Office of the Governor, we're pleased to have with us Betty Rousseau, the Regional Representative for Governor Greg Abbott. Betty, we want to thank you for the little spotlight we got in the Governor's Bulletin last week. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That was a surprise when they asked us to find some kind of picture from some event we participated in. So I was real glad they did that. So thank you for sharing the picture to put in there. Good morning, everyone. One bit of good news is that prospects from around the U.S. are still looking at Texas. We continue to get interest with relocations and expansions here. There's a lead going out to certain areas today. So, but we've had several through all these last few months, so that's been really good. And I'm just going to go over some points where I've been getting questions on regarding the last executive order. Business establishments that previously have been able to operate at 100% capacity may continue to do so, and most outdoor areas are not subject to capacity limits. Certain outdoor gatherings of more than 100 people are prohibited unless approved by the relevant local officials, and the local official may place restrictions on any approved gathering. Public schools may resume operations for the summer in accordance with TEA guidelines. And there have been a lot of questions on what businesses are subject to limited occupancy and how do the occupancy limits work. In order to ensure that almost every type of Texas business is open at some level, this last executive order creates a baseline general rule of a 50% occupancy limit for all businesses, then provides certain exceptions, such as to allow businesses that have been operating at 100% to continue to do so. There is no occupancy limit for the following: religious services, local government operations, child care services, youth camps, and recreational sports programs. As we know, several of those are choosing not to go forward, which is okay. It's just fine. Cosmetology salons, massage establishments, and other personal care services have not previously been subject to the 50% limit, and that is not changing under this executive order. They just have to social distance and keep the stations sanitized and follow all the guidelines. The 50% occupancy limit generally does not apply to outdoor areas, events, or establishments, but certain outdoor venues and areas can operate only up to 50% of their normal operating limits. Those include professional, collegiate, and similar sporting events, swimming pools, water parks, museums and libraries, zoos, aquariums, natural caverns, and similar facilities, rodeos and equestrian events, and amusement parks. County judges and mayors, or as appropriate, can prohibit certain outdoor gatherings of over 100 people by withholding approval of such gatherings. Staff members are not included in determining operating levels except for manufacturing services and office workers. And Couple other things. Can a retailer make me wear a mask in the store? Yes. Private companies can add hygiene measures for patrons, just as they can require shoes and shirts. Can businesses open interactive components like child play areas, pool tables, or video games? Yes. Businesses should regularly disinfect surfaces like these that are frequently touched by patrons. And I just wanted to bring those up just because I've been getting a lot of questions on those. And I appreciate what everybody does. Nancy, we appreciate you and the Texas Forest Country Partnership. Y'all have been a wonderful partner to me, and y'all are just the best for this region. Thank you for what you do. And Wayne and Tara, thank you for what you do. Y'all are strong people and really good at in the chamber profession, and just thank you for your strong in what you do. It's such a strong I'm sorry, my word's not coming. Thank you. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Betty. We appreciate all you're doing on our behalf, as well as it's great to have such a strong link to the governor's office in our region, and you're a wonderful resource as well. For an economic update, Larissa Philpott, are you with us, Larissa, from NEDCO, the president and CEO?
Hello, friends. My camera's not working for some reason today, but you all know what I look like. So, Tara, thank you for joining us today. It's good to see your face and miss you, friend. For those of you that don't know, Tara and myself, along with the Nacogdoches Chamber, have done a lot of work in the last couple of years on a new manufacturing partnership. Just wanted to give a little commercial for that partnership out there, because it is one of the best collaborations I've seen between our two counties. And honestly, my 20 years in Nacogdoches, and I'm really excited to continue with not just a partnership, but continue a partnership period between our two counties, and to continue to grow that. We all know that it's the only way we're going to get better is if we work together with those two groups. A quick economic update, sales tax, if you read the paper, you already know this, but we did show an increase in our June report, which would be for sales that took place in April. But don't get excited by that. That actually was due to an audit payment. There were a couple of folks who the state found didn't quite pay their sales tax payments the way they should have. And so that got collected in April, showing up in our June payment. So when you take that out, we were actually down 12%. Which is a scary number, but it's not as scary as it could have been. We found, lots of other cities our size, and honestly, lots of other university towns were down sometimes 20%. So I was okay with 12. Unemployment has stayed steady at about 10%. It is larger in some other cities. So again, we're okay with 10. We want it to be better than that, but we'll take 10. Just a brief message from the city, because I don't think Amy Mahaffey was able to join. Despite an increase in testing, and Representative Clardy covered this a little bit, just even though our testing numbers have gone up, the percentage of positive results from that testing has stayed at about 11%. So even though the numbers of tests have increased, the numbers of people coming back from those tests, the percentage of people, the rate of positive has stayed about the same. Our hospitals have a good capacity. There are more people in the hospital right now. Maybe that's because people weren't going to the hospitals before. Maybe they put off some things, and maybe we do have more COVID folks, having to be hospitalized, but we have plenty of capacity. So please don't worry about that. On the other hand, though, if we are seeing more cases, it's important to wear your masks. We have the governor has asked everyone to wear masks. The judge and the mayor have asked folks to wear masks. And by doing that, we can keep our rates lower and keep our businesses open. As your economic developer, I'm asking you, please wear masks so we can keep as many of your businesses open as possible. Just a brief commercial again about some business development seminars that NEDCO is going to be hosting. We hosted one with Medical Center Hospital just a couple of weeks ago about returning to work after a COVID positive diagnosis. We're going to work next on a leadership seminar, kind of leadership in a crisis. And then we are also working on a mental health seminar. And these are just brief lunchtime seminars trying to address topics that our businesses need. So if you have any ideas, any requests, shoot me an email, shoot me a message, and we'll try to cover that for you. One other note, you may have heard that Congress, our federal senators and representatives are working on a P4 program. The P3 program is the one that provided loans and grants to our small businesses. They're now looking at a P4 version that would be dedicated to very, very small businesses. It's funny, they call them very, very small businesses, and I call them Nacogdoches businesses. A lot of that P3 money went to very large companies, and I think we've all seen that in the news. The latest round of discussions for the P4 program was geared towards businesses with 100 employees or less, which is most of the businesses here in Nacogdoches. So I will bring you more information on that as it comes, but just know if your business needs additional help, we may be able to find that for you, and it may be forthcoming. If anybody has any questions, shoot me an email. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larissa, for all you're doing, and we really appreciate NEDCO and the great work you folks are doing. Representing the hospitality industry, would you welcome my colleague, Sherry Cheney Morgan. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, everybody. I'll try and move quickly because I know we've surpassed the hour that we dedicate to this call. Currently, Texas is struggling to strike an appropriate balance between implementing effective public health measures and restoring vitality to our economy. And nowhere is this tension more intensely evident than in the tourism industry. We all know, and I try and drive this point in whenever I can, tourism is a major driver of the economy in urban and rural areas alike, and Nacogdoches is no different. Estimates indicate that direct traveler spending in 2019 added $155 billion in total gross product to Texas and supported over 1.5 million jobs. In this past April 2020 alone, 500,000 of those hotel and those hospitality jobs were lost due to the shutdowns from COVID. We here in Nacogdoches have fared better than most, but with every decision that we make here at the CVB, we ask ourselves, is this responsible promotion of travel to our town? And then we adjust accordingly. In light of all of this, it is really, really easy to feel powerless. But I do have a list of things, a few things that you can do that matter and that make a difference. Number one, wear a mask in public places and practice safe social distancing. What we're hearing from the people that are coming into the visitor center, that are choosing to travel to Nacogdoches, is that they want to travel. They are desperate to get out of their homes and to interact with people and to see different things outside of their own communities. And they feel that Nacogdoches is a safe destination to do so. We want everyone to both feel and be as safe as they possibly can be. Number two, find ways to enhance the Nacogdoches experience. Pick up litter, plant or tend to flowers, volunteer. We here in the Visitor Center, we actively need more volunteers. Get your spouse or your older children to pick up some shifts on the weekend so that we can stay open and welcome these people. Or have your company sponsor a day of welcome at the Visitor Center. Imagine signage that says, Commercial Bank of Texas welcomes you to the oldest town of Texas, and your employees are working 2 of our weekend shifts wearing their branded shirts and greeting all these potential new customers. You get a free opportunity to attach your business to the great product that is Nacogdoches. It's a win-win. Get outside. Thirdly, get outside and enjoy Nacogdoches. Our biggest asset by far is our quality of life. Mike Bay at our front desk shared with me that this past Saturday, a couple came in that had visited us this last summer as well. The difference being this time around, they've sold their home in another state and are relocating now to Nacogdoches, solely based on the past experience that they had, what we have to offer, how friendly everybody was. That is one new homeowner that's paying taxes, that is shopping in our shops, adding to traffic counts that, in conjunction with some other factors, attract new businesses into our community. They are voting in our elections, making changes, volunteering in our schools and our nonprofits. These small ripples grow exponentially and really move the needle for us. Fourthly, find opportunities for community education and engagement. Right now, as we speak, the Chamber of Commerce has a program called Leadership Nacogdoches that takes place every other year. It is a premier leadership training that spans 9 months. For 1 day each month, you get to learn a different sector of our community. And again, this opportunity only shows itself every other year, but right now we're taking applications for that. And between COVID and all the fluid changes that we see with that, and incoming new leadership in NISD and a new city manager that's now on the forefront, there are bound to be changes. And these opportunities like Leadership Nacogdoches afford you a front row seat to the conversations surrounding those changes that are inevitable. And lastly, and most importantly, fill out your census and encourage your friends, your families, your neighbors, your employees, anybody that you can, encourage them to do so as well. Our counts are desperately down in Nacogdoches, and through no reason. It takes minimal time, and under 2 minutes you can be done, and those numbers matter. That's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sherry, and thanks for all you're doing for the hospitality industry in Nacogdoches County. I'm pleased to welcome Les Lindberger, the Director of Communications for the Nacogdoches Independent School District. Good morning, Les.
Thank you, Wayne, and good morning to all. While NISD is awaiting guidance from Texas Education Agency regarding the upcoming school year, the district is preparing for a combination of in-person classes and distance learning models in the 2020-2021 academic year. We still don't know what everything will look like once classes start, and as you might have heard Senator Nichols mention earlier, many of the details of how to hold classes will be left to individual school districts. For now, NISD will move forward with the instructional calendar adopted in February by the Board of Trustees with a start date of August 24th. And you've likely already heard me say the district plans to add days to the spring semester to account for any closures that might be required during the school year. Now, there are still numerous details to be worked out, things such as curriculum management aids that would streamline both those in-person classes and online or distance learning models, or a combination of the two. Then, if we're holding in-person classes, there's all manner of things to consider, such as lunchtime, changing classrooms at the high school and middle school levels, and even transporting students between home and school. School districts have been told to prepare for recording attendance, another challenge considering we'll likely have a number of students participating in online classes at any given time. As well, keep in mind, any plans that we publish later this month would still be subject to further guidance from the governor's office, from Texas Education Agency, as well as our own Nacogdoches area health officials. So there's still a lot of things that we have to move on here in the next 2 weeks to get ready for the upcoming school year. Wayne, that's my report.
Thank you very much, Les. You know, at the conclusion of these calls, I always, in my mind, kind of do reconcile what I've heard. And the word uncertainty is the only word I can use, that we're all living in an environment of uncertainty, but hopefully these calls at least provide some insight in the direction we all should go. We're wondering about programs. We're wondering about events. Here at the Chamber, we're talking about things like Leadership Nacogdoches and the annual meeting and the golf tournament and all those things. And I know all of you have your own issues that you need to contemplate. I thank all of you. I want to thank our presenters, especially Tara. You know, when I approached Tara before I made the initial phone call to Tara, I wondered, whether it was even appropriate to ask her to give that intimate insight. And I want to tell you, Sarah, how much we really appreciate your candor and your willingness to join us here. You're a wonderful partner here in East Texas, and I've been in this business for a long time, and I've never worked with a colleague that I've enjoyed working with more than you. It's a real honor, and thank you very much. To all of our presenters, thank you for your insight and your direction, and to all of the people who took time today to join us, I want to thank you as well. This thing would be useless without an audience, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the call. And with that, I'll conclude the call. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.